Today, the 28th of January 2026, the government of St. Lucia launches the National Insurance Dialogue under the National Consultation on the Current State of the Insurance Market in St. Lucia and its implications for citizens and the island's economy. My name is Jessie Leonce, host for today's proceeding. On behalf of the spearheading department, the Department of Commerce, I welcome and thank everyone present in studio. At this time, I would like to invite Investment Officer Alana Dubois to lead us in a word of prayer. Let's all stand.
We're praying. Father, we are so grateful for today's blessings. You have kept us safe, and for that we are immensely grateful. We pray, dear God, that as we are about to commence this insurance summit, we ask that your presence will be with us and that everything that will be done today will be done with excellence. We pray, dear Father, that you'll help everyone here to commit to this cause and to do our very best to ensure its success. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Ms. Dubois. You take your seats. Honorable Minister John Paul Estefan, Minister in the Ministry of Tourism, Commerce, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture and Heritage. Mrs. Sophia Alfe Henry, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Commerce. Mrs. Nathalie de Souza, Executive Director at the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, FSRA. Mr. Hubert Deligny, Deputy Executive Director from the FSRA. Mr. Lethan Khan, Board Member at the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. He's also the Executive Chairman at Agostini Insurance. Mr. Joseph Dolor, Representative of the Insurance Council of St. Lucia. Management and staff of the Department of Commerce and the Ministry of Tourism. Also, I forgot to mention from the National Consumers Association, the President, Dr. Tekla Fitz-Lewis. Representatives from the regulatory bodies, members of the insurance and financial services sectors, private sector leaders, civil society partners, fellow citizens of St. Lucia. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. Globally, insurance clients and providers are facing a complex array of challenges, and St. Lucia's insurance market is not insulated. We have and we do face some similar challenges and some unique ones as well, including our vulnerability to natural disasters as small island developing states. We've also recognized the need for enhanced regulatory frameworks and affordability challenges for citizens. This is the motivation for this latest dialogue of the Department of Commerce. To welcome you and speak more about this intervention, I welcome to the lectern the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Sophia Alfe Henry. Give her a warm welcome.
I wish to adopt the protocol already established, but permit me to welcome and recognize our Honorable Minister, Minister Estefan, and the Ministry with responsibility for commerce. A very warm welcome to everyone here today. Good. It is truly a pleasure to have you join us for this important gathering. Today, the Department of Commerce spearheads efforts to address an issue of national importance, the current state of the insurance market in St. Lucia and its implications for our citizens, businesses, and the broader economy. The Department of Commerce remains steadfast in its commitment to facilitate and support the business community. We are always ready to listen, to engage, and to work collaboratively toward the implementation of practical and sustainable solutions to emerging threats. Today's consultation is no different. It's a reflection of that commitment. This forum not only provides an opportunity to discuss sector-specific concerns, it is a demonstration that your challenges are taken seriously and that the government is committed to finding solutions that benefit the nation as a whole. The issues facing the insurance market have been long-standing and were consistently highlighted during quarterly engagements with the former Commerce Minister, Honorable Emma Hippolyte. The concept note for this initiative was endorsed by Cabinet, reflecting the national importance and urgency of addressing these concerns. Today, with the portfolio now under the leadership of our new Minister, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, this initiative continues as a priority. Minister Hilaire has recognized the potential impact of this intervention, and there is a shared commitment to advancing meaningful and lasting resolutions. Insurance considerations are critical not only to the business community, but to all citizens of St. Lucia. In one way or another, each of us is affected. You may be at in a commercial building, and there's some mishap, you get hurt, and that building is not insured. The owner doesn't have the money to compensate you. So you could be on a vehicle, and the vehicle is not insured. So we want persons to appreciate that this dialogue is not of interest only to persons with insurable assets. Every one of us can be impacted. If properties are not insured, every one of us can be impacted. So this is a dialogue for the entire nation. This reality calls for a focused national dialogue, one that goes beyond discussions on premium costs to explore public attitudes, regulatory frameworks, fiscal policy, market dynamics, and the essential role of government in shaping a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable insurance ecosystem. This gathering signals the launch of an important process. In the coming weeks, there will be further dialogue and consultation with key stakeholders as we work together to develop practical solutions to the challenges identified. Today is just the beginning of a collaborative effort to strengthen our insurance sector, safeguard our citizens, support our businesses, and ensure the long-term economic resilience of St. Lucia. Let me express my appreciation to each of you for joining us on this important occasion. Welcome all.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Commerce. We will now hear from the representative from the Insurance Council of St. Lucia, Mr. Joseph Dolor. Warm welcome.
In the interest of time, I will acknowledge the protocols already established, but also recognize Minister Estefan. For those of you in the room who don't know me, my name is Joseph Dolor, and I'm the chairman of the Life and Health Subcommittee of the Insurance Council of St. Lucia, and also the recently appointed live sales manager for the EC territories for Nagico Insurances. Today, I'm going to speak to you from the perspective of a person who's been in the insurance industry for the past 20 years, and also a representative of the Insurance Council of St. Lucia. Let me be direct. St. Lucia's insurance market is under structural pressure. Without coordinated intervention, coverage will continue to shrink, premiums will continue to rise, and the national vulnerability will deepen. What is actually driving premium increases? Premium increases are not arbitrary and are not driven solely by the local insurers. There are 4 sources shaping the premium outcomes in St. Lucia right now. Number 1, reinsurance pressures. Global reinsurers are aggressively repricing catastrophic risk, rate increases of 15 to 30%, reduced capacity, stricter underwriting terms, have become the standard for small, high exposure territories like ours. These costs are not absorbed locally. They flow directly into the pricing of insurance on the ground to the final consumer. Second, concentrated catastrophe exposure. St. Lucia faces sustained exposure to hurricanes, landslides, increasing climate volatility, and limited geographic diversification. From a risk pricing standpoint, this construction makes the market inherently more expensive to insure. Third, rising motor claim frequency and severity. St. Lucia has experienced an increase in both the number and cost of motor vehicle claims. Higher impact collisions, more frequent accidents, rising repair costs, and more injury-related claims have materially worsened the insurer's loss experience. Motor insurance premiums are fundamentally driven by claimed outcomes. When accidents become more frequent, more severe, premiums must be adjusted if insurers are to remain solvent and be able to pay claims. Fourth, cost layering within the system. Rebuilding cost inflation, claims volatility, high deductibles, long settlement periods, and the 5% insurance premium tax all compound affordability challenges, particularly for middle and lower income households. These are not temporary shocks. They are structural market realities. Why insurance penetration is so low? Industry estimates suggest that around 80% of residential properties in St. Lucia lack property insurance coverage, highlighting a significant protection gap. Low insurance penetration is not driven by price alone. It reflects affordability constraints, mistrust or misunderstanding of insurance, products that do not always align with household cash flow realities, a lack of sustained structured educational training. When insurance becomes optional instead of essential, risk doesn't disappear. It shifts from the private sector onto families and onto government. That is not sustainable. Why this is a national economic risk? Insurance is economic infrastructure. In an uninsured economy, recovery slows, credit markets tighten, government fiscal pressure increases, and the household experience long-term financial scarring. This is why the proposed national consultation matters, not as a discussion forum, but as a mechanism to reset how risk is shared across the economy. Life and health insurance, the silent stabilizers. While property insurance dominates public discussion, life and health insurance quietly underpins national resilience. Life insurance protects household income streams, keeps mortgages current, keeps children in school, prevent deaths and disabilities from becoming generational poverty. While health insurance reduces catastrophic out-of-pocket spending, protects workplace productivity, and reduces downstream fiscal pressure on the state. In every resilient economy, life health insurance act as shock absorbers for families and for the public finances. Why national consultation is the right tool? Government has a catalytic role to play. St. Lucia already recognizes the role of insurance in reducing long-term fiscal pressure on the state. Life insurance premiums qualify for income tax deductions of up to $8,000. And medical insurance premiums qualify, and also qualifying medical expenses, qualify for a separate $8,000. In addition, homeowner property insurance premiums are already tax deductible, reflecting an established policy intent to encourage households to risk protection. However, despite this existing incentive, insurance penetration remains dangerously low. Particularly among low and middle income households. This suggests that deductibility alone does not sufficiently close the protection gap. The national consultation therefore provides an opportunity to review and strengthen how existing property insurance tax incentives operate, including 1, whether the current structure effectively reaches first-time and previously uninsured house owners, whether caps, thresholds, or credits could be better targeted towards primary residences, how tax incentives can be aligned to resilient standards, and verified risk reduction measures. This is not about introducing new subsidies, but about optimizing existing policy tools to achieve stronger resilience outcomes and reduce the government's post-disaster fiscal exposure. In parallel, the government intervention can support microinsurance and parametric solutions, stronger building standards linked to insurance incentives, improve road safety to stabilize motor insurance costs, and the integration of insurance into housing, credit, and reconstruction policies. Education must move in parallel. Even best reforms will fail without public understanding. This is why the Insurance Council of St. Lucia, together with the Financial Services Regulatory, FSRA, are developing an insurance literacy campaign. This initiative focuses on understanding insurance as a financial tool, improving trust and informed decision-making, increasing responsible uptake of life, health, and property insurance. The national consultation represents a clear opportunity to integrate education with reform. A call for partnership. We invite government, financial institutions, employers, civil society, and regional partners to engage, not just in discussing, but in co-ownership of these solutions. In closing, the question is not whether St. Lucia can afford to reform its insurance market. The real question is whether we can afford not to. Insurance, when properly structured, is a stabilizer for families, businesses, and the national economy. I thank you.
The Insurance Council of St. Lucia will be a much relied on stakeholder in this rollout. As he's indicated, he has 10 recommendations so far. I'm sure there's no shortage of them coming from him. The PS indicated earlier that, you may not even have an insurable asset, but it is important that every St. Lucian needs to be in on this dialogue, in on this conversation. But to extend the conversation even further, Mr. Dolor indicated that, life and health are silent economic stabilizers. So in truth and in fact, every single person is important in this dialogue. We need everyone's input, everyone's contribution, because things like life and health, which everyone should have, which everyone should be, investing in, is important to have. I just want to continue on our program. We want to next move on with Mr. Lethan Khan. He is the board member of the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, executive chairman of Agostini Insurance as well. Do give him a warm welcome.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Please permit me also to adopt the protocols already established and also to acknowledge the presence of the Minister. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome. I must assure you that we did not exchange notes. When I listened to his speech, I heard my speech. That's not surprising. We're both insurance practitioners, and it's I guess we're thinking along the very same line. And so you will find a lot of common ground in what we both have to say this evening. So I'm here on behalf of the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, and I want to thank the Department of Commerce for initiating this national insurance consultation. We're pleased to have been invited to participate in these discussions, as this matter is of extreme importance to the members of the Chamber. This initiative comes at exactly the right time. As an insurance practitioner and as a representative of our business community, which comprises manufacturing, financial services, hospitality, distribution, transport, and professional services, I can safely say that without a strong, stable, reliable, and accessible insurance market, business as usual as we know it would come to a grinding halt. Today, I just want to do 3 quick things in the time frame allotted. First, I'd like to just frame some of the challenges we're experiencing, and Joe already mentioned some of those, and offer a brief explanation why it is happening, and then to offer just plant a few seeds for us to think about as we prepare to launch this Insurance Resilience Action Plan. So, where we stand. Across property and motor insurance businesses, premiums have risen sharply. Even customers with no claims who have been paying their premiums for years, never made a claim, they're still being asked to pay substantial increases in their premiums. And you wonder why my insurance company would be doing this to me. And at the same time, deductibles are up, scope of coverage is narrower, limits and capacity are tighter, and policy terms and conditions are more restrictive, especially for coastal properties and complex commercial risks. And you can ask anybody who owns a hotel on the beach how challenging it is for them. For some households and firms, this threatens insurability itself, and with it, access to finance and even business continuity. Underinsurance, and you'll hear a lot about underinsurance or lack of insurance, becomes a systemic risk. And when a disaster strikes, the cost shifts to families, to employers, and ultimately to the state. Now, why is this happening? Joe mentioned reinsurance. Local insurers and regional insurers rely very heavily on international reinsurers to carry on business and to cover major risks like hurricanes and earthquakes. They simply don't have the capital bandwidth on their balance sheet to carry all these exposures that they insure. Now, I should tell you that international reinsurers, while they're in the insurance business, they are really major, sophisticated global investors that manage capital on a truly global scale to maximize returns. They are driven by high interest rates and strong underwriting results. They are focused on diversifying their investment portfolios beyond traditional stocks and bonds into higher yielding assets to optimize investment returns. To put it simply, if reinsurers can't get the returns they seek in our market and from our local insurers, they will redirect their capital to more lucrative markets. And that is where the real challenge is for insurance companies. The second major challenge, as was mentioned, is climate change risks. Historical data and science tells us that the frequency and severity of wind, flood, and rainfall events in our region are increasing. Now, we only need to recall the devastation we witnessed last October in Jamaica, when Hurricane Melissa gave the Caribbean a frightening reminder of what a modern-day disaster could look like in our region, and an insight into what's potentially lurking in those dark clouds above us. If Hurricane Melissa had made landfall across St. Lucia's 238 square miles, with its near 200 miles per hour winds, the consequences would have been devastating and traumatizing. I cannot even recognize my childhood hometown in Jamaica because it was totally obliterated. And you should just wonder if that happened in St. Lucia, where we would all be today. The third major issue is global inflation and claims severity. The cost to repair homes and vehicles and to provide medical care has escalated. Add to this changes in regulatory reporting and accounting standards that improve transparency, but sometimes raise operating costs, and you get persistent upward pressure on premiums. Fourthly, and this one is significant, local claims experience. This matters very significantly. The numerous road accidents we've been experiencing are extremely costly. lives are lost, breadwinners are taken away from us, or remain disabled for the rest of their lives, and many end up losing limbs and various body parts. This issue brings into sharp focus the dire need for a deeper national penetration of medical and life insurance in St. Lucia. And I believe absolutely no discussion on a national insurance strategy should exclude the indispensable areas of medical and life insurance. And I must note here that it is indeed encouraging that plans are in motion to introduce universal healthcare coverage in St. Lucia. Also, while it is an uncomfortable truth, suspected fraudulent claims and the contamination of genuine claims force insurers to act prudently to protect cash reserves in order to be able to pay valid and legitimate claims. And this in itself is driving stricter terms for everyone. So what do we do? Given the challenges our insurance industry faces, the Chamber of Commerce believes that the issues before us cannot be solved by any one stakeholder. What is required is exactly what the proposed national consultation seeks to promote: a collaborative, evidence-based approach that aligns and brings together the interests of government, regulators, insurers, reinsurers, the private sector, and civil society, and to design practical and sustainable solutions. This will not be an easy, quick fix. And this is mainly because of the overbearing weight and influence of the external factors which are totally beyond our control. To survive, St. Lucia will collectively need to adopt a range of proactive risk management strategies and fiscal measures, including a review of the regulatory environment to allow for more flexibility without compromising fiduciary oversight and effective corporate governance. These strategies must include strict compliance with weather-resilient building codes, more scrutiny in financing building projects, diversifying insurance products by promoting parametric insurance to protect the most vulnerable, such as our farmers, and utilizing regional risk pooling mechanisms where possible. I'm very passionate about this one, and fiscal measures should consider removing the 5% premium tax, which adds another layer of cost to homeowners in particular. And it does so at a time when families are already struggling to maintain adequate coverage. We should probably not be taxing private individuals for trying to safeguard the little assets they own, especially in the face of unrelenting weather vulnerability. In fact, insuring one's home and personal belongings is something the state should actively encourage and even incentivize, because we believe this is in the long-term interest of the state. When people have no insurance and they're totally devastated, they're going to come knocking on the doors of the state. And then the state will have to find the money to help them. So while we appreciate the government revenue considerations must be balanced carefully, we also believe this is an opportune moment to reassess whether premium tax on private homeowners insurance remains sustainable in the current environment. And I must add, I'm calling for a removal of the premium tax on homeowners insurance, not on commercial property or commercial business. A most critical component of any strategy going forward is the implementation of a comprehensive public education and awareness program. The public must be sensitized about the vulnerability of our island and how fragile and delicate our main economic drivers are. There should be a focus on promoting personal risk management strategies within individual households. We believe that St. Lucia requires a long-term strategy to enhance the solvency and competitiveness of insurers, incentivizes risk reduction measures such as improved building codes, as I mentioned earlier, and ensure that coverage becomes both attainable and reliable. The Chamber's position is that we stand ready to play an active and constructive role in the development of an insurance resilience action plan. Our members are not merely consumers of insurance. They are partners in risk management, compliance, investment, and national resilience. The Chamber sees this consultation as a call to action to reset the narrative from one not just focused on premium cost, but one centered on shared responsibility, risk reduction, and sustainable economic protection. We believe that if we invest in resilience, modernize how we price and deliver coverage, and focus on inclusion and conduct, St. Lucia can remain insurable, bankable, and investable, even in a tougher climate. The Chamber again commends the Department of Commerce for taking the lead in facilitating this dialogue and for recognizing that resilience, economic, social, and environmental, is a shared responsibility. In closing, the Chamber looks forward to the weeks ahead as we engage in further dialogue and in crafting a strategy or a blueprint for the pathway forward. Our business, our communities, and our future prosperity depend on it. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan has just laid bare the stark reality that we're faced with when it comes to the insurance markets, what we're confronted with on the international level as well in terms of reinsurers, and so providing a lot of more insight, giving us a better understanding of what we have to contend with as we go into these consultations. And we've heard speakers so far mention consultation and other events. Just want to let you know that between the February the 2nd to May the 1st, we will be having the national consultation, stakeholder engagement, working groups to collect market data and feedback, and developing and presenting the National Insurance Resilience Strategy and Action Plan. So it's not just a consultation to have discussion, dialogue, and it drops off there. There is essentially out of this initiative a call to action that we can follow as a government and along with other stakeholders to ensure that we can improve, enhance the insurance market overall. At this time, I want to call on Mr. Hubert Deligny. He's the Deputy Executive Director at the FSRA, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority. Insurance regulation in St. Lucia focuses on strengthening supervision, solvency, and policyholder protection. It is managed by the FSRA, another crucial stakeholder in this consultation. Do give him a warm welcome.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Protocol having been established, I wish to acknowledge the Honorable Minister, John Paul Estefan, and also all distinguished guests present. Now, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, we actually welcome the opportunity to participate as a stakeholder in the launch of this very, very important national insurance dialogue. We commend the ministry for convening a forum that brings together policymakers, industry practitioners, the regulators, and other key stakeholders to reflect on the role of insurance in supporting economic resilience and social protection. Now, at the outset, it is important to offer a measured perspective. We know that the insurance sector locally, regionally, and globally has faced challenges in recent years, particularly following periods of heightened catastrophic activity and volatility in reinsurance market. Now, those markets provide insurers with risk transfer and capacity support. Now, these conditions are not unique to our jurisdiction, nor are they unprecedented. Many countries across the region, and I dare say further north, in some cases, insurance premiums and deductibles are indeed materially higher than those observed locally. Now, from a regulatory standpoint, the FSRA observed that reinsurance market, which experienced significant hardening in earlier periods, I'd say 2022, 2023, 2024, has begun to show signs of stabilization. So that's, I guess, good news. Capacity constraints that previously affected certain lines of business have eased, and in particular, property line of business. So what we're hearing from industry, those constraints are being easing up. And reinsurance pricing, while still elevated, has shown signs of leveling in 2025. So these developments point to a market that is adjusting rather than one in sustained distress. Now, this context is important. It is important because it allows us to look beyond pricing alone and to examine the deeper structural issues within the market. Now, one such issue, I think Mr. Khan did mention, is underinsurance. In our supervisory engagement and informed by industry experience, we continue to note that a meaningful proportion of households and businesses either carry insufficient insurance coverage or remain uninsured altogether. Now, this exposes policyholders and those uninsured to significant financial loss when adverse events occur and can, over time, shift the financial burdens to the families, communities, and the public sector. Yes, the government. So insurance affordability is therefore a legitimate concern. However, affordability must be considered alongside adequacy. Coverage that is materially below replacement or recovery needs may offer a sense of protection, but ultimately proves ineffective when losses arise. Addressing underinsurance, therefore, requires not only attention to premiums, but also improved risk awareness, clearer product understanding, and informed coverage choices. Insurance, by its nature, reflects exposure to risk. This is also evident in the motor insurance, where pricing is increasingly influenced by claims experience linked to driver behavior and road traffic accidents. In an era of increased climate volatility, the central question is not whether insurance should respond to risk, but rather how risk is managed, shared, mitigated across households, businesses, insurers, and public institutions. So as regulator, the FSRA's role is not to set prices or direct market outcomes, but to ensure that insurers remain financially sound, that policyholders are treated fairly, and that insurance market operates in a transparent and orderly manner. Therefore, this dialogue as an opportunity for informed and constructive engagement grounded in data, regional comparison, and practical experience. We recognize that issues of affordability, access, and adequate coverage cannot be addressed by regulation alone. They require coordination across fiscal policy, land use planning, building standard, disaster risk reduction, and very, very importantly, financial literacy. A resilient insurance market is ultimately underpinned by resilient communities and resilient infrastructure. So the FSRA looks forward to the perspective shared during this dialogue and to contributing, where appropriate, from a technical and supervisory standpoint. We commend the organizers once again for initiating this important discussion and reaffirm our commitment to participating constructively within our statutory mandate in efforts that strengthen confidence in the insurance sector and support national resilience. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Laying out the role of the regulatory body here in St. Lucia. And of course, following the consultation, we can look forward to submission of a cabinet memo that we hope will inform sufficiently the cabinet of ministers to deliberate on the introduction and the legislation, hopefully, of regulatory reforms and other changes that are important to the insurance market. And we hope that they're able to muster the political will to swiftly institute those changes. On that note, I want to welcome to the lectern Honorable John Paul Estefan, Minister in the Ministry of Tourism, Commerce, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture and Heritage, to give him a warm welcome. Our rep today from the Cabinet.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Please allow me to adopt the protocol already established. However, permit me to recognize the Permanent Secretary from the Department of Commerce, Mrs. Henry, and the rest of the staff from the Department of Commerce. And if you also permit me to recognize the President of the National Consumer Association, and also a resident of Babono, Dr. Fitz. So whilst the rest of the country, in particular our Minister, Dr. Hille, is working with the battle relay to celebrate our 47th independence anniversary. So here we are, about to launch an important exercise. Okay, so I warmly welcome and I express my gratitude for your presence this afternoon as we collectively step to confront the pressing challenges that affect our people and our economy. Okay, this occasion is to officially launch the National Insurance Dialogue, and more importantly, the commencement of a critical national conversation on the state of the insurance market in St. Lucia and its implications for our citizens and the wider economy. So the initiative comes at a very, very pivotal moment. St. Lucia, like many other small developing states, is on the front line of climate change, hurricanes, and you heard reference was made to Hurricane Melissa earlier, and the devastating impact that it had on Jamaica. Floods and other extreme weather events are becoming more and more frequent and more intense. Okay, these realities are placing unprecedented pressure on our insurance sector and exposing vulnerabilities that we can no longer afford to ignore. So at present, it is estimated that approximately 80% of homes in St. Lucia are uninsured. And somebody highlighted what could happen. As a matter of fact, we dread, although the economy is doing very, very well, we're experiencing surplus, but we dread what would happen if some catastrophic event were to hit St. Lucia, what would happen to our economy. So that is why we place a lot of value on the exercise that we are about to engage in. High premium costs, costly deductibles, limited product accessibility, and a lack of trust or understanding of insurance have all contributed to this troubling reality. Added to these are global pressures, most notably rising reinsurance costs and reduced capacity, which have had direct downstream effect on our local market. So in actuality, this poses major socio-economic risks and challenges to our national resilience. So without a coordinated action, St. Lucia remains ill-prepared, both socially and economically, to absorb future shocks. That is why this dialogue is not focused solely on premiums or policies. We must also examine the prevailing barriers to access, addressing public attitudes and awareness, further defining the role of the government in fostering a more inclusive, affordable, and resilient economic sector. So the government that I am part of is acutely aware that insurance coverage is not a luxury, but a critical pillar of protection for our most vulnerable sectors and population. That understanding has informed deliberate policy action, including the establishment of a dedicated insurance program for local banana and plantain farmers, individuals whose livelihood are uniquely exposed to climate, market, and supply chain shocks. We have also reinstated the Distress Support Fund as an immediate safety net in times of crisis. At the same time, we acknowledge the inherent limitations of such post-disaster interventions. Relief mechanisms, while necessary, cannot substitute for comprehensive risk management. To be more effective, our resilient measures requires a cultural shift, one in which individuals and businesses clearly see the value of insurance as a safeguard for life-changing investments, whether in a home, a farm, a vehicle, or a business. We must broaden this conversation to confront emerging pressures that may further affect affordability and access. Let me read that again. We must broaden this conversation to confront emerging pressures that further affect affordability and access. So this initiative is therefore provide an essential platform to examine these interconnected risks, anticipate their implications, and collectively explore regulatory framework and market responses to safeguard consumers and maintain stability to the insurance sector. So that is why I would encourage all the stakeholders and everybody to participate in the discussion. We are hoping that coming out of the discussion that the memo to Cabinet will give us some clear perspective in terms of where it is that we can go with the insurance sector. And I know that the government has the political will to take the decision that is necessary to protect the citizens of this country. After all, we want to put the people first, and whatever that it would take to put the people first, we will take the steps to ensure that we protect St. Lucians and we make living in St. Lucia very, very good. Let me thank and applaud the Department of Commerce for taking the initiative And again, I want to encourage everybody to take part in the discussions. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much. The Department of Commerce has set an ambitious target to conclude all initiatives surrounding this undertaking by the final quarter of this year. So that means enacting any legislative amendments for regulatory reforms, public outreach, public education and awareness launches, and other programs by the final quarter of this year. And so we do hope that all of St. Lucia, all residents in St. Lucia, participate where possible in the dialogue, in the consultations. The national consultation will be happening from the 2nd of February to May 1st. Okay, so working groups to collect market data and feedback, stakeholder engagement, and the development and presentation of the National Insurance Resilience Strategy and Action Plan by May. Okay. At this time, I would like to invite our final speaker at the lectern for our launch. We have Ms. Aretha Regis. She's the Director of Investment of the Investment Coordination Unit at the Department of Commerce, and she will be delivering the closing remarks. Just want to let you know before we wrap up that the expected outcomes, we hope that St. Lucians will have a shared understanding of the critical issues that are impacting St. Lucia's insurance market. That is very important. If you understand what the situation is, you can be more appreciative, and we hope more St. Lucians will understand what insurance entails, what it requires of they themselves and other stakeholders in the market. So here's to hoping everyone can be part of this initiative for the greater good of St. Lucia. Ms. Regis?
On behalf of the Department of Commerce, I extend sincere thanks to all those who have contributed to the success of today's official launch of the National Insurance Dialogue. I'm especially grateful to Honorable Minister for his insightful remarks and for underscoring the urgency of addressing the challenges facing St. Lucia's insurance sector, particularly in the context of climate vulnerability and national resilience. I would also like to thank the Permanent Secretary for her leadership and for reaffirming the department's commitment to meaningful engagement and collaborative solutions. Special thanks to the representative of the Insurance Council of St. Lucia, Mr. Joseph Dolor. Special appreciation is extended to Mr. Leothan Khan, board member of the Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Hubert Deligny, Deputy Executive Director of the Financial Services Regulatory Authority. Your presence here today signifies your commitment to this important national effort, and the department commends you for your continued partnership and support. I would like to specially thank the staff of the Department of Commerce, whose dedication and professionalism were instrumental in the successful execution of this event. In particular, Ms. Alana Dubois, for her exceptional commitment and tireless efforts throughout the planning and coordination process. Her willingness to go above and beyond significantly contributed to the smooth delivery of this launch. Thank you to Ms. Charlotte Smith for her strong support and valuable contributions in making this event a success. Our appreciation is further extended to all stakeholders from the public and private sector, civil society, the staff of the Department of Commerce, and the media whose participation reflects a shared commitment to this national initiative. Your engagement today marks the beginning of an ongoing dialogue aimed at strengthening our insurance framework and safeguarding the economic and social well-being of our citizens. Thank you for your support, your partnership, and your continued collaboration. Let the work begin. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you once again to Ms. Regis and the rest of the team at the Department of Commerce. We appreciate this effort into transforming the insurance market as we know it. The time for action is now. As St. Lucia faces a combination of challenges, a mounting disaster risk, market vulnerabilities, the national response is essential to further avoid erosion of coverage and to safeguard our economy. This national dialogue and subsequent insurance resilience action plan will be a pivotal step toward building a sustainable, inclusive, and disaster resilient insurance ecosystem. I thank you all for being here today. You have been easy on the eyes, audience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. And here's to hoping we can see more of you as we proceed with the rollout of this venture. My name is Jessie Leonce. Thank you so much for watching. Do stay tuned to NTN for more programming. Goodbye.